I'd been hiking in the northern woods for years, ever since I was a teenager, and I thought I knew every inch of those dense, shadowy trees. But that day, I discovered something I couldn't explain, something that still haunts me every time I close my eyes. It was a late autumn afternoon, the air crisp and the ground covered in a carpet of red and orange leaves. I was exploring a part of the forest I hadn't been to in years, taking advantage of the clear weather before the winter snowstorm set in. I had no destination in mind, just the familiar thrill of wandering deeper into the trees, feeling the world fall away behind me. After hours of hiking, I came across something strange. At first I thought it was just a trick of the light, the way the sun filtered through the dense canopy, casting long shadows that twisted and shifted as the wind moved the branches. But as I got closer, I realized it was real. There, in a small clearing, was a staircase. It was just standing there, in the middle of the woods with no structure attached to it, no ruins, no foundation. Just a staircase, old and wooden, stretching upward into nowhere. It had about 15 steps, ending abruptly in mid-air, as if whatever it once led to had simply vanished. The wood was dark with age, moss clinging to its sides, and the steps were worn smooth like they had been used for years, though by whom or what, I couldn't imagine. I stared at it for a long time, my mind struggling to make sense of what I was seeing. It was as if it had been plucked from an old house and dropped here, miles from civilization. I had heard stories, legends, really, about these so-called staircases in the woods, but I always thought they were just urban legends, campfire tales meant to spook kids. But here it was, right in front of me. Curiosity got the better of me. I approached it cautiously, half expecting it to disappear like a mirage. But it was solid. I reached out and touched the wood, and it was real, cold and damp beneath my fingers. A part of me wanted to turn back to pretend I hadn't seen it. But another part, a deeper, more reckless part, urged me to climb it. I told myself it was just an old structure, nothing more. Maybe it was part of some long-forgotten hunting cabin, though I couldn't imagine why anyone would build a staircase like this in the middle of nowhere. I placed my foot on the first step, testing it. It held my weight, creaking slightly but not shifting. I took another step, then another, my heartbeat quickening with each one. The woods around me grew silent, as if the very air was holding its breath, waiting to see what I would do. By the time I reached the 7th step, a strange sensation washed over me. A sense of wrongness, like I was trespassing somewhere I didn't belong. The air felt colder. The trees around the clearing seemed darker, their shadows stretching toward me like skeletal fingers. But I kept climbing, driven by a mix of fear and fascination. When I reached the top step, I paused. The ground below seemed farther away than it should have been, as if the staircase had stretched higher than it appeared. I turned slowly, looking out over the treetops, but the forest seemed different somehow. The colors were muted, the leaves dull and lifeless, the sky overhead a shade of gray that made my stomach twist. That's when I noticed it. There was no sound. Not the chirping of birds, not the rustle of leaves, not even the distant hum of insects. It was as if the world had gone silent, holding its breath. Then, from somewhere behind me, I heard a soft whisper, so faint I couldn't make out the words. I whipped around, nearly losing my balance, but there was no one there. Just the empty clearing, the dark trees standing like silent sentinels. My skin prickled, a chill running down my spine. I wanted to get down, to put as much distance between myself and that staircase as possible. But when I turned to descend, I froze. The staircase didn't lead down to the forest floor anymore. Instead, it stretched into a vast, endless darkness, as if the steps descended into a bottomless pit. The ground, the trees, everything was gone, replaced by an abyss that seemed to swallow the light. Panic surged through me. I turned back, hoping to climb down the way I came, but the top step was no longer connected to the clearing. I was suspended in some liminal space, a place that shouldn't exist. The air was thick, heavy, pressing in on me from all sides. The whispering came again, louder this time, like voices speaking just out of reach, surrounding me. "Come down," they said, a chorus of voices, some pleading, some taunting. "You came this far. Don't you want to see?" I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the sheer terror of being trapped, or maybe it was the overwhelming urge to escape that endless void. But I took a step down, and the darkness swallowed me whole. For a moment, there was nothing. Just a blackness so complete it felt like I was drowning in it. Then the whispers became screams, echoing all around me, and I was falling, tumbling down those steps faster and faster, the air roaring in my ears. I don't know how long I fell, but when I finally hit the ground, the world snapped back into place. I was lying in the clearing again, the sun low on the horizon, the staircase standing as if nothing had happened. My body ached, my heart pounding like a drum. I scrambled to my feet and ran, not daring to look back, not until I was miles away. I tried to find that clearing again. I returned to the woods with friends, with maps, with everything I could think of. But the staircase was gone, as if it had never been there. No one believed me, of course. They all said it was just a trick of the light, or that I'd gotten lost and confused. But I know what I saw. Now, every time I walk in those woods, I can feel it. Watching me. Waiting. And sometimes late at night, I swear I can still hear those whispers calling me back to that place where the staircase stands, leading into nothing but darkness.